Ooh-ba-doo-ba-doo-boo-boo. Let me just hello, folks. I'm trying to adjust this just a little bit. There we go. Sorry about that. I think that's a bit better, isn't it? Yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. Let me just adjust the chat there so we get the live chat. But hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us once again. Today's chapter was having a wee look at some of the writings that are contemporary to Frank Herbert's Dune series, which is quite an interesting little body of work there, I think. So, as usual, we'll take your questions on any of this stuff as we continue to explore the ecological theme tonight. I'll just say hello to everybody saying hi. Hi, Firkin. Hi, Ether. I hope you can all hear me okay. I'm getting wee green lights down below, so it should be all right. Let me just turn that way a little bit. There we go. Excellent. So I hope you're all keeping well. For those of you just joining us, we're just getting started. I had a bit of bad news today. We figured we have the opportunity to book our cinema tickets today to go see Dune. And guess what? Northern Ireland's rubbish. Our local cinema is not showing Dune on the 21st when it's out. So we've got a bit of a quest on, as they say. Brad says the sound is good. Thank you, Brad. So we're not going to be able to go to the local cinema to see it on the 21st, and that's a bit of a shame. So it means we're a bit of a road trip ahead, and we're quite surprised that the local cinema is not showing Dune. And just to give you a wee bit of a insight into that, folks, I really wanted to go see. I think I told you I'm not too well versed with Denis Villeneuve's films, but I really did want to go see Blade Runner 2049 in the cinema. Just because the hours I work, I thought I'd catch it within the first week it came out. It was here and gone, bang, and I never got. So I had to actually get it on DVD. Yes, got my ring back. Yes, indeed, Brad. Thank you. My ring of my wedding ring of happiness. I'm very, very pleased about that. I have the sort of mind, Brad, that I will. I'm very good at finding things I lose, and usually this works the other way around, if you like. But I'm very good at backtracking and finding things. My wife would lose stuff, and I'm very good at finding stuff, and I have that kind of mind. So the real problem was that when I lost it, it was dark and I couldn't see. Kind of applied everything to what I kind of knew to my senses as to what I heard and where it might have went. But there were possibilities that it could have went into a bin. It ended up inside a bed sheet, I think, but it just flew off my finger. So really, really pleased because it's been bugging me for some time, and every single day I've been running some kind of memory process around the house to try and recall when the last time I wasn't. Because I moved my wedding ring, I take it off this finger when I'm playing guitar. It gets in the way a wee bit, and my hands are not massive for a guitar player, so I tend to pop it on here and play it. So I do sort of move the ring around a wee bit. But yeah, I'm really, really delighted, and it's actually freed my head up an awful lot because I no longer have to try and figure out what, and I had pretty much done this kind of process all around the house, so I was starting to run out of options. So got my ring back, found my wedding ring. Well, the wife found it, so I was really delighted. If for anybody who was watching, it happened kind of when we were broadcasting live last night, so absolutely over the moon. So there you go. But yeah, I got a bit of a trek to go and see Dune, sadly. So we think we'll have to head to Belfast to see it. It's about 70 miles, I think, from here. Something like that, roughly. But that's not too bad, I suppose. So we'll have to see by tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll maybe have our tickets booked for June and be able to say, well, I'm going to go see it I'll actually hopefully be able to say we're going to go see it on the 21st. That's kind of interesting because one of our cars has been completely out of commission for quite some time. We just got it fixed the other day. Just tricky getting things done with COVID, So there we go. Oh, thank you very much. There's a nice cup of coffee for me. Thanks, love. Ooh, it's hot. So yeah, folks, any questions at all on tonight's stuff? We did. It's an interesting chapter. I think it does have a look at. I think Earth Abides is quite a similar kind of book in intent to Frank Herbert's Dune series, particularly Frank Herbert's Dune. So it was a very good wee book to sort of provide a comparison for, though they're quite different animals. Excuse me. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with Earth Abides, but it's not a bad book, I have to say. It was not on my radar. and it was suggested to me to have a wee look at it in relation to the ecological sort of movement. So there we go. So yeah, and we also then really get to have a look at sort of how the ecological movement starts to drive with some of these books like that come out we talk about there. Where let me see, I don't have too many of them here actually. I think I may only have the one, but that's the one that comes through the Ecologist, the blueprint for survival, and what we talk about, the apocalyptic ecologism. It's a wee bit ripped here, but the cover says nightmarishly convincing. After reading it, nothing seems quite the same anymore. That's kind of the point of putting some of this stuff in tonight, actually, to let you see it. By the way, that's something we were talking about it the other day. That's Paul Sears, Paul Bigelow Sears, Where There's Life. This is the book that probably influences Frank Herbert's ideas on ecology more than any other, I'd say, absolutely. And we did talk about, this is where we find the Samuel Butler reference. That's to Erewhon, Samuel Butler's Erewhon. And it's kind of a Paul Bigelow Sears actually wondering, are things heading towards Butler's Erewhon? It's really interesting in terms of its connections to Dune. So let's have a wee look at your comments. Ether says, my opinion on Denis Villeneuve is that he's very good at painting moving pictures, excuse me, but often misses the point of a work, kind of like Scott Snyder, who paints wonderful moving pictures, but often leaves his characters feeling hollow. I'm trying to think of Scott Snyder. I'm not familiar with that name. I have a wee bit of an opinion on the kind of look of 2049 that I thought it was clean. And I don't know if that's because of digital filming or something like that, but the original film felt dirtier, gritty, the more real. And I would expect that world from Blade Runner that's set in, I think it's meant to be set in 2020, but they switched it to 2019 because of the obvious vision connection, if you see what I mean. A large part of Blade Runner, the movie, is about vision and eyes and so on. There's a lot of suggestions about vision. I think having the film set in 2020 was a bit too much. So, but I thought that Ridley Scott's world from Blade Runner would deteriorate, would get dirtier, darker, more polluted, and it seemed to be brighter and clean. Oh, hello. So it's just my dog coming in and making herself comfortable. So there we go. So if anybody's joining us, welcome to the doghouse, as I like to call it, our space station. Let's see. Brad says, could you please expand or explain on the end of your video the point you're making about moral law, ethical law, please? I was eager to get over here. And Ether says, in my opinion, Scott Snyder and Denis Villeneuve are different variants of each other. Give me an example of Scott Snyder film, please, Ether, because I wouldn't possibly connect the name. I'll tell you what. Would you give me 1 wee second, please, folks? Hang on. Wendy, could you, whenever you get a wee minute, could you get downstairs? Only when you've had it, I'll bring you back to you. It's either in the kitchen, I think. Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah. Sorry about that, folks. I was just going to get something brought up, actually. So, Brad, in respect to your question, I'll come back to it in a minute. I'm going to get Wendy to bring up the PhD so I can actually just double check it. But expand on, explain on the end of your video the point you're making about moral law and ethical law, please. Yeah, give me a wee second just so I can refresh my memory on that. And in fact, I'll pop it up on the screen here as well. But yeah, I thought it would actually, thinking about rigging up another monitor or something, folks, actually, so I can do this a bit easier. There we go. Right. Bear with me 1 wee second just so we get. Yeah, okay. So this is Frank's right, folks. Okay, if you bear with me a wee second, what I mean is I'll just run through this quickly just to refresh our memory. I Thank you very much, though. That's great. There we go. Got the real thing up here so we can have a nosy at it if we need to. And I'll just crank it open. That's the ecology section. I actually thought, yeah, I should have this handy just in case, not really for me to refer to, but I actually was thinking about the footnotes because occasionally there's a really good wee footnote. And as much as they're all at the back there on the videos, 2 years, there we go. Right. Okie dokie, folks. Right, sorry about that. Just pop that open there. Now I'll just read this today. This is Frank's statement, I suppose. And he says, we play the game today with counters called money, and we talk about laws of supply and demand and so on. There's a law of supply and demand, and there's no problem which won't submit to this approach, even the problem of our own ignorance. This assumption, you see, throws it out the window right there, because it is an asinine assumption and the basic fallacy of Western man's approach to living. We need what I would call a science of wisdom. So the moral norm, as I try to show in Dune, is something imposed upon people by their environment. Ethical law takes a step in another direction, and it says that I, the thinking animal, see the logical consequences of these moral actions, and maybe I'd better modify the moral law slightly by a higher ethical law. Dune shows the conflict between absolutes and the necessity of the moment. You might say it is an exercise in showing up the fallacy of absolutism. Okay. Excuse me. So the moral law, in that sense, is kind of things that are the equivalent of the good for the tribe, etc. Where, for example, the Fremen abandon the blind, and this kind of their Fremen's laws are imposed upon them really by their environment. So the point is, I suppose, coming from if you want to take that as an example, where you can abandon people to the desert just because that's it, they're weak or they're not going to help us. But instead, what you do is you create an ethic. So to approach something ethically, in terms of law, is to say, well, there's got to be a good reason for it, if you see what I mean. And so that it's okay to abandon someone. And you can create a law like this if it's for the good of everybody else. And creating an ethical law to overwrite the moral law, if you see what I mean. So the moral law is survival of the fittest, abandon the weak. Okay. The ethical law is where the weak understand that that's for the good, that it's written, if you see what I mean, that it's understood that there's a law there, but it's for a good reason. Does that make sense? So, for example, whenever the Fremen leave a blind person to the desert, that blind person accepts that, if you see what I mean, because of the ethical law. Prior to that, a moral law would just, in a sense, we're getting rid of you. And if it just is for the good, it's down to what you think is the difference between morals and ethics, I suppose. And people talk about their sense of morality, their sense of ethics, but it's the application of these things to law for the greater good. And I suppose that then within that, and I would be a good example of that law is a thing that's supposed to apply to all people equally, but to a sense that there are always people who won't fit into the boxes. And therefore, by my sense, the application of any absolute law always can leave out the individual, if you see what I mean. To modify the moral law slightly by a higher ethical law is, according to Herbert, where the moral law is imposed upon the environment, the ethical law comes from the thinking animal, as he puts it, man. And I can see, he says it, the logical consequences I can see the logical consequences of these moral actions, and maybe I better modify them slightly, just for the good of everybody. I suppose a real good example of this, if I want to bring it in from the classical world, is that the definition of politics, guys, by Aristotle in I believe it's in the Nicomachean Ethics. So he says that politics is the science of the happiness, the eudaimonia, the good spirit of humanity, of mankind, in his terms, where the happiness of the individual is subservient to the happiness of the state or the collective. And it's that kind of idea. That's an attempt at ethical law to say it's okay to crush one person if it's for the greater good. So you'll get this in Star Trek, isn't it? The needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many or the few. It's the same kind of idea. I wonder, does that explain it? I think. That's in my own sense that your laws can be imposed upon you by your environment. How you can survive in them, it depends on the level of extremes to your environment, I suppose. You can think of law as a set of rules, really, that you're prepared to live by. Let me just catch up, folks. But I hope that answers your question. I've got to fall back here a lot, folks, because we've got a bunch of text to catch up on. So let me just see. Oh, why? Because we were talking about Denis Villeneuve and Scott Snyder. Howdy, y'all, says Babs. Not a movie lover, so y'all lost me. Yeah, I can't. I'm not. I don't know. Oh, hang on. Right. Ether Prime says he meant Zack Snyder. Thank you. Ether 300, Justice League, Man of Steel, etc. Scott Snyder's an American comic book writer. Got my signals crossed. It's okay. It happens to me a lot, actually. Sometimes there's a Northern Irish author called James White, and I keep giving his first name wrong, just because I know a bunch of people called White, and it's one of those things. And I keep meaning to talk about him at some point. We'll talk about him at some point, but I often give his first name incorrectly. I do that a fair bit, but then, or I'm the sort of person that might give it wrong the first time and give it right the second time, I think, but I know who you mean now. Zack Snyder. 300 I thought was excellent. Justice League, I haven't really watched it. Man of Steel, I think the Superman ones were okay, I thought. And I haven't really seen any of the Justice Leagues or as I'm kind of not in love with superhero films for quite some time, I think is my problem there. I'm superheroed out. And have been for a while, if you see what I mean. It's the same with the zombie films and the vampire film, TV shows and so on. So let's just catch up a wee bit with your conversation. Almost like 300 is the only one I've seen. 300 is really good. I think it's I suppose it's Frank Miller, isn't it? But Frank Miller's kind of his creation of 300 is kind of based on stuff out of Herodotus, I think. But yeah, Battle of Thermopylae, very, very good. I love all that stuff. Snyder Cut of Justice League was a big deal in pop culture. So I've heard, Brad, and because I haven't watched the one I'm assuming that was a really bad cut, I may give it a chance at some point. He's a talented filmographer, art director, but gets lost in the weeds. My honest opinion, I love the visuals of Blade Runner 2049, says Ether, but thought the story and characters were lacking. I kind of actually thought the story worked really well at the end. And it was literally, yeah. But I do have my own problems with it, just in kind of continuity with things. But I just thought it was a bit clean. That's all. But it was beautiful to look at. Very beautiful looking film. And no, I really enjoyed it. I've watched it in terms of Denis Villeneuve films. I've watched it. I've seen a couple of his films just once. I haven't got around to watching Arrival yet. But I've watched Blade Runner 2049 about 4 times. I've enjoyed it each time. Just it's a long film. I'm not a fan of long films in the cinema. I want the break in the middle, the intermission. I watched Lawrence of Arabia again the other day, and up comes the intermission and they play the music, and I was just thinking, oh, you've enough time to go get your ice cream or run to the loo, whatever it is you need to do, and not miss anything. And I just wish they'd bring that back. If people keep insisting on making 3-hour long films, please give us an intermission halfway through. I think a lot of talking computer science about human computer interaction. I think some filmmakers need to re-engage with the biology of the human being, I think, or at least the cinemas, But make films that are like that for cinema really long. But if you're going to do it, give us a break in the middle, please. I think. Oh dear. Oh, that start going to the cinema in incontinence suits, I think. Let's just catch up, folks. But yeah, it was a good film. I said, really sad to see it. I don't like that films can land at the cinema and be gone within the week, and you just miss the chance to see it. It's hateful, especially as I don't go towards the cinema. I don't go to the cinema too much. Oh, we got people saying hello. Hello, Joseph. Hello, and hello, Karen. Hi. Thanks for joining us, guys. Either primes the individual is the ultimate minority. I think it's quite funny. I'm living in Ireland, Northern Ireland, and a lot of people are talking about Irish unity. To be one, to be united. Unity is one. And as long as I'm around, I've no. There'll never be one with me around. I'll put it that way. I like to. I'm the culture of one. I stand apart deliberately. So yeah, unity is it's a strange thing. And I have a kind of an opinion about human beings, but there's some human beings I think are, as they say, gregarious by nature, want to commune with other humans and stuff like that. And there is the individual who really just kind of likes their space and to be left alone. Britain's got a very much a nanny state kind of government, and it's conservative government. I don't know. There are people who are educated in empire, and there are people who are educated in Roman Empire, but not the Greek side of things. If you see what I mean. Boris Johnson's a great example of that. He could be a very good company within history. I'm thinking people like Nero and Caligula. that's where I put him. Not particularly good or anything, just a bit bonkers. So hello everybody. Any questions on tonight's episode or the ecology thing? Fire away, folks. Let me just see where we're at. I see morality is imposed by the group, ethics imposed by the individual, but it gets messy. Well, I don't know. I've studied ethics. So I find ethics quite interesting. I think I was talking about the other day all these university ethics committees, and you can probably argue none of Noodles, behave, love. Sorry, that's evil Noodles barking. It's okay. You all right? Hello. It's all right. I've got it. You got me back, don't you? Yeah. Oh, she's good. Sorry about that. But yeah, ethics committees without anybody who's ever studied ethics, But before you can say, have a ethical, I suppose we have axiology as well, which is the study of value judgments. But before you can say something is right, I believe in right and wrong. But what is right? To you, one person's right could be another person's wrong, But yeah, have a look at the Greek schools of thought. It's quite interesting. And of course, if you look at Plato's Republic, then that's an interesting thing where they're talking about the value of there's the morality and how they discuss religion. They understand the gods aren't real, but we should keep religion. It's a good control system, Depends on what you're thinking on, I suppose. It is. It's a very broad and tricky subject, I think, ethics. But generally, I think it's not too hard to see what is right and what is wrong. I think in the world, you can look at something and say that's bad. Why do you think it's bad? Well, if it happened to me, I'd think it's really bad. That's a good enough answer. If you see what I mean, empathy and sympathy can guide your ethics a long way, I think. Don't know what you guys think. Let me just catch up. Let's see. So Karen's going. Blade Runner 2049 is a cinematic masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. Again, you see, Karen, I'd happily go and watch that on a cinema if I could see it on a cinema. I've only seen it on I don't know, about 40-inch TV, something like that. 42-inch TV, that's about it. And there's a lot of films I'd love to see in the cinema. I don't know if I don't think a lot of you guys are in America, but you've got that wonderful drive-in movie culture. That we've seen in films and stuff like that. And I was a big fan of American Graffiti and that kind of, those kind of days in the 50s and so on. But the whole idea of the drive-in movie theater, I think, is amazing. I just wish there was something like that about here. But yeah, something I've always envied about America is the whole drive-in movie thing. I think that's amazing. I wish it would have been a part of my life, because cinema was a big part of my early life, Ether Prime says, search for the Rage Holics review of Blade Runner 2049 is spot on. Do. Hi, sir. Oh, Fergus Kelly. Hi. I've read a comment from Google Groups in 1996, and the comment said that Frank Herbert is a homophobic man. That has really made me sad because I deeply love the Dune books and Frank Herbert. Okay, hang on. Sorry, I've scrolled there. Let me catch up. Where'd that go? What do you think? Brad saying his views changed on sexuality. No problem, Fergus. Yeah, I'm catching up. I'll tell you what, let me just run down a wee bit. Yeah, I love Zack Snyder, but I don't worship at his altar. Docs addressed this, I think, yesterday. I did. I'll run through it again for you, Fergus, very quickly. I just want to get to the bottom of the text here. I regret only, because we're just having a wee bit of natter, I regret only seeing Blade Runner 2049 twice in the cinema when I had the chance. Karen, I envy you. Is why I'm not repeating that mistake with Dune Part 1. You've already sniffed one. Excellent. Things like that happen when one's gay family members. Don't get me wrong, I'm out, Danny's work isn't perfect. Bring back the intermission. I think. Okay, I'm just catching up. Sorry, I have a lot to catch up on there, Ferkin. I'm going to answer your question in a wee second. Brad saying, I haven't been to the cinema in years. Another reason I'm busting to go to the cinema to see Dune. Can't see myself walking out disappointed. Same here. Haven't been in about possibly 2 years, I think. Think of Denny and Zack in the same but different perspective. They both produce amazingly gorgeous movies, but where they're very strong on visual storytelling, they suffer in terms of themes, tone, character, arcs, etc. Hard disagree. Okay, I'll catch up with that a wee bit. Excuse me. Where were we then? Firkin, Frank Herbert, I don't see as homophobic. We ran through this yesterday. So if you want to have a wee look at the live cast from the previous night, but I will recap for you. So in terms of what we mean by homophobia and to a modern audience, etc., no, Frank Herbert is not homophobic. He does not have an irrational fear of homosexuality to the point where that irrational fear causes him to hate or despise or loathe or any of that kind of ilk of a thing. So from Frank Herbert's point of view, as best as I can understand, he does have a problem with homosexuality, but it's not homophobia as far as I'm concerned. It's in terms of his own work, he views homosexuality as a genetic dead end, and that's why he sees it. That's the way he looks at it. Now we're talking about. There's a conversation to be had about the character of the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, who is both homosexual and a paedophile, and that often people look at that equation of the two things, but there's simply two separate characteristics of his villain. And the point we were trying to make is that there's a lot of evolutionary ideas that are explored in Dune through various offshootings of humanity, but there are particular ones looking at homosexual cultures, for want of a better word, or monosexual cultures. So they're female only, male only, etc., etc. And all of these are meant to be an exploration of evolution. So Frank Herbert's ideas on homosexuality are also primarily focused on the homosexual nature of the military specifically. And this is explored in the Dune books. And these Dune books, we talk about, they're researched basically in the 50s and written at a point really, I think at the end of the 50s or early 60s onwards, up until the mid 80s, early 80s. So the discussion, the approach to homosexuality within the Dune series is an evolutionary one, like everything else in the series. And in real life, Frank's views on this, he did have Frank's views on this mellowed, and he did have a bit of a not a great relationship with his gay son Bruce. And I think this also caused issues with Brian. So there's a good bit about this in Brian Herbert's biography of his father. And I think from the sense that I got, I think things were sorted with Frank and his son, who was a gay rights activist. I think quite a well-known gay rights activist, if I'm not mistaken. So I think things mellowed with Frank's views changed over time. And in terms of what we would call homophobia, I disagree altogether. It's not that kind of thing. I think, but it is I think also his opinions are incorrect, by the way, but they're opinions that change over time, and that's the way I would present that argument. But I would not present them as being homophobic in how we would look at that term today. So I hope that answers your question. Firkin, so there we go. Comment from Google Groups in 1996. So Frank is a homophobic man. No, he's not. I disagree, and I think Brian would disagree as well. But I keep pointing people to this book. By the way, I know Brian Herbert sometimes is a bit of a prickly topic, but Dreamer of Dune, the biography of Frank Herbert by Brian Herbert, is an excellent biography. And if you're big into Frank and you want to know more about him, I highly recommend it. But there's a few other books, by the way, on Frank Herbert from a sort of biographical point of view that would flesh him out a lot better for you. And let me just see. Bear with me, folks. And I'll show you exactly what they are. Here we go. Tell you what, let's get them. We got to. Let's see now. What's that? Is that a... No, that's a short. Yeah. These are the ones out. Oh, here, actually, hang on. Tell you what, I've got something else to show you. I think this is a really, really good book for insight into Frank Herbert. This is Frank Herbert by Timothy O'Reilly. The same Timothy O'Reilly. It's really good. Really, really good. And I think this book, by the way, there's an electronic version. Electronic version of it online, I believe. Covers. It's not just Dune. From concept to fable, the evolution of Dune, the hero, rogue gods, and ecology of consciousness, the worm turns transcending the human, how it all begins again. If you're a Dune fan, I said if you can't buy it, it's free online as a PDF. Highly recommend it. I don't know if there's an audio version of it or not, but that's a great book. This one by Frank Herbert by William Dupont. That's a great book too. And again, yeah, really insightful into Frank. And he gets through. I think I referenced this book. This is one of the few books that actually looks at all the Dune series. This is a really good book by William Dupont. There's this one as well, by the way, which is edited by Timothy O'Reilly. And this is the maker of Dune, Insights of a Master of Science Fiction. And that's all sorts of wee things in there. Now, I do have one other thing that's really good. And you guys might be able to get this a lot easier than moi. No. But look at that. Isn't that a great illustration, by the way? That's Herbert's Dune and Other Works, Cliff Notes. And there is a Spark Notes on Dune as well. But the Cliff Notes book is really good, and it covers let me see, Dune Messiah, Godmakers, Under Pressure, Destination Void, The Eyes of Heisenberg, The Green Brain, The Santiago Barrier, Whipping Star, and Hellstrom's Hive. So published up to a certain point in Frank's career, but they're really, particularly this one, it's actually got a lot of good, as much as it's one of these notes books, got a lot of insight into Frank Herbert. It's really good. Sometimes you'd be surprised where you find good stuff. So there you go. But that will give you a much better idea, Firkin, of what Frank Herbert's like. But particularly a lot of that stuff is discussed by Brian in his biography. But yeah, there we go. Let's see, catching up, folks. It's relevant to many things, but here's views, cheese. But yeah, it is. It is important to look at, I think. Let's see, catching up, folks. Where were we? Bring back the intermission. I think I recall that. I think you guys are having a disagreement about how great Denny is. I don't know. I like old-fashioned cinema. Smoke and mirrors, if you know what I mean. But I'm catching up there with. I think that was yourself, Brad. I haven't been to the cinema in years. Another reason I'm busting to go to the cinema to see June. Can't see myself walking out disappointed. I can't either, to be honest. I think it is going to be one of those you're going to get quite impressed no matter what you think. Dude, let's catch up. Character, it's hard to say. Don't I have my mind racing like crazy. Snyder's films are more like stylized fast food. Okay, interesting. I like plenty of Snyder's films, says Carol. I watch all movies in IMAX or in my living room, laughing out loud, says he. It's a primary scene in the 70s. Okay. Still on movies, sorry, it's fun. Danny Elfman and Trent Reznor have teamed up to make music, have they? I said years ago they should have teamed up for the soundtrack for Nightmare Before Christmas. Babs, catching up. Drive-ins are, yeah, okay. I'll do a pile of catching up, folks, here, just to, because we're my wee arrows and there's loads of stuff down here. So, grew up on now. Hang on, I must have missed something again. Let's see. Oh, I have, definitely. This is hard to keep track of sometimes. Right. Drive-ins are awesome. Movie without having to deal with people. Yeah, something I've never been to. Love to have been to love to have gone to see a drive-in film. 19, they make great sense. Love Trent Reznor and Danny Elfman. Actually, yeah, I thought it would be a good idea to get cinema up and running here. To start having drive-ins, there's plenty of bits of wasteland and stuff. All you need screens, and I'm imagining some sort. I don't know how they do the sound. It's big speakers or something. Travis says, "Hey there, everyone. Greetings from the good old USA. Looking forward to tonight's discussion." Howdy, Travis. USA here too, says Babs. Thanks for joining us, Travis. Came along too late for me. I'm listening to a lot of grindcore these days. I've been getting into some of that retro techno, or what is it you call it? Is it tech noir or something like that? Kind of interesting. Who's a public service broadcasting is a band I've been checking out lately, folks. And they've a fantastic video, which is kind of like a science fiction thing. I don't know how to describe it. It's like Jelly Babies meets oh goodness, The Handmaid's Tale meets roller disco meets tranquil pills. It's Come Dance, I think. Check it out. It's a brilliant video. These 5 women doing this routine on roller boots, and they're phenomenally good. And you could, if you're having a bad day, watch them and chill out. They're very calming and relaxing to watch. They're great. Grew up on 9 Inch Nails. I quite like 9 Inch Nails, yeah. Hey, Mr. Rose, Brad Rose has more into ministry, and yeah, ministry is good, Brad. Yeah, that's more my cup of tea, actually. Jesus built my hot rod. And, Psalm 69, isn't it? Brad, the way to succeed and the way to suck eggs. Ministry are great. Yeah, I'm Decrypts. I like Decrypts. Ether, Sister Machine Gun. I don't know my life with the thrill, kill. I suppose my favorite band, kind of my 2 favorite bands, would be the Doors and the Sisters of Mercy would be the other one. Just in terms of, I like all sorts of music, except possibly country and western. As a musician, I have played all kinds of music, though, I have to say. Mr. Rose, that's my father's name, mate. Oh, there we go. I lost people again. Let me catching up, folks. So everyone's saying hello. Travis saying it's just your southern charm, Brad. Okay. Read what? Laughing out loud. Okay, Karen, for him to have been homophobic, he would have to express that it was actually wrong for people to be gay. I think it would be a stretch to say that things in the Dune series imply that anyway. Yeah. I think it's just really a focus on certain aspects of the Baron. And then, as I said, the conversation really about the nature of homosexuality in the military, which is well observed conversation anyway. Up until recently, it's absolutely true. So that's maybe somebody else's problem, I think, maybe. Simply put, Ether saying it's an evolutionary dead end. From Frank's point of view, I disagree, actually. And now all of that stuff's irrelevant in terms of modern science. I think Ether. Furkan says, "Thank you for your comprehensive answer, sir. I really respect you. I'll get the books." Oh, thank you very much, Furkan. It's just the truth, sir. Everything that we have in my work is evidenced, and I do my best to approach it without bias of any kind. So if I'm giving you an answer, it's to the best of my ability, and I hope it certainly wasn't something that was going to put you off the books, Furkan. But if that's the case, yeah, go get them and read them. And yeah, yeah, uh, good stuff. You'll enjoy them thoroughly, I think. But if my answer is the thing that gets you to read the Dune books, then I'm really, really pleased, Furkan. I'm just wrapping up the first one again, just getting to the end, and I'm really enjoying it. Either as an individual, maybe as a species, it's rather neutral. Says Babs. Karen says I'm more of an instrumental post-rock listener. I never, when I'm learning songs, I don't ever learn the words. Karen, I just learn, or I tend to just make up and go. I tend to just muck around on guitars quite a lot these days. I'm trying to kind of play stuff that I think's a bit like science fiction movie music. More of an instrumental post. I mean, as an individual, widely adopted mode of sexuality is probably why many parents reject it because they want to see grandkids. Again, I don't think that applies anymore. I mean, the difference in the world since I was a kid is 2021. It's all sorts of it. I think, oh, didn't William Shatner go up into space today and come back safely? He did. I saw him. I don't know if anybody saw this, but I caught it where he came back out, and he was just attempting to say, and then is it Jeff Bezos, the twat, came running over, and William Shatner was trying to say it wasn't like what I expected. You know what the real difference was, and I was really wanting to listen. There was no microphone on William Shatner. Really wanted to hear what he had to say, genuinely. What was different about what you expected, William? Really tell me. And Jeff Bezos, so champagne, blah blah, cut the old man off. And I don't know about you, but where I come from, that's appalling behaviour. Absolutely the height of rudeness. So I was really quite disgusted at. I don't know if any of you guys saw that today, and I'm hoping to see an interview or two with William Shatner. But I thought what Jeff Bezos did, I thought was very rude, bad mannered. There you go. Let me keep catching up, folks. I think I'm getting there. Oh, maybe not. Let's see. Duncan disapproved, says Brad, of homosexuality. I think Doc said that was to represent the Protestant view on sexuality, if I recall correctly. Old-fashioned. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, well, we get that over here. I mean, gay rights are very, very poor in Northern Ireland. And I think we have quite a large gay community, LGBTQ, etc. community here nowadays. And so, yeah, there's been word that the DUP, for example, are going to literally apologise to all the gay people for the last 50 years, and which I think is quite kind of interesting. But they haven't figured out that they need to apologise to everyone else as well. There you go. But yeah, I actually myself, I'm quite pleased to tell you guys that myself and I used to, I played in the band Happy Shrapnel, but myself and the singer, used to play in a wee kind of a two-piece called Sings and Strings, and we played up. They asked us up to play for the Belfast Pride Festival, and we're both heterosexual people, and we both went up and played and had a great time. It was really good. So there you go, doing our bit. But yeah, Northern Ireland's very backward in many, many ways, and it's the absolute hold of the church, and it's not just the Protestant churches, I think, sadly. But yeah, Duncan is representing a kind of at this point, as we move thousands of years into the story, he really is representing a very much an old-fashioned man. And we have to assume that there's degrees and iterations of change between the Duncans as they're continually reincarnated, Let's just catch up. Ether Prime says, he, great album. I must have missed something there. Ether, I do, yeah. I know we were talking about this the other day, the live chat thing that we have here, but occasionally miss something on this. But yeah, there we go. Favorite bands and stuff. Karen says, I have an issue with people who expect their kids to have kids for their own selfish reasons. You know, there's a couple of those things that provide modern quandaries, isn't it? Where some parents actively have a sibling or actively aim to have a child so that they can, uh, provide some kind of donation to another sibling. If you see what I mean, it's interesting. The world's changed incredibly. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Make their kids to have kids for their own selfish reason, except cat kids. Carol, check out Frank Zappa for instrumentals. I love Val. Is it Valley Girl? That's Frank Zappa, isn't it? But I love that song. Aye, Frank's good. Joe's Garage, is that it? Am I thinking right? Oh dear. Long time. I just realised what you meant, Bobs. Thrill kill cult. Autocorrect strikes again. There are some fun things with the autocorrect, aren't there? Keep asking people to get the shuttle to the station. Well, that's my typing. Actually, I always mean to type a shuttle. Not me. Right. Okay, we're all getting confused tonight. That's good. It makes me not feel so bad. Yeah, don't take me out of my breeder bingo board. I hope your channel grows. Dark Travis says, aside from you and Quinn's ideas, there aren't any good YouTube channels out there with Dune content and deep dives. As a Dune super fan, I really appreciate it. I'll tell you what. Let me see. Travis, there's Quinn's channel's really good. The Nerd Cookies do stuff. They're quite good. I quite like Nerd Cookies. There's a Russian channel called Rocket Man, who's brilliant. I think he's brilliant. I've only watched I've started watching him about maybe 6 months ago, and he does stuff on Dune. And you've got to activate, if you don't speak Russian, activate your captions, and you will be able to get English subtitles on what he's saying. And he does stuff on Dune. He did something recently on the stainless steel rat, and I'd argue he's almost my Russian alter ego. He's much better at this stuff than I am. He's very professional, very professional. And what I found was really interesting is he gives you a wee bit of insight into how science fiction was viewed in the Soviet era. And he's actually talking about, I'd say he's even probably around the same age, maybe a bit younger than me, but how they get science fiction in the Soviet era, and talking about all this Western Soviet Western science fiction turning up when the folks go into the markets. So I found it really insightful. Science fiction is really popular in the Soviet Union, but a lot of it, I suppose, shut down. So he was talking about getting stuff and the absolute joy of getting things that I kind of took for reading for granted. So if you haven't, you'd have to subtitle them, Travis. I don't speak Russian, sadly. I think it was Privet and Zdravia and Das Vidanya, I think is about me, I think, or maybe Du Paraski, something like that. I don't know. I'm quoting films. I must learn some Russian just to say hello to people from Russia. But it's a really good channel, and he does do Dune content, and it's good quality stuff. It's very well researched, so I highly recommend him. And he did a program recently on the stainless steel rat, and I'm going to do a program on the stainless steel rat. But I popped in a wee comment about I didn't think they knew about the comic book versions, and so yeah, Rocket Man, I think he's called. And it's a Russian science fiction kind of really good. He's really good. If you don't mind the subtitles, and his programs are quite decent length, and they're very well produced. He's very professional. He's really well animated. He presents himself well, and I think he dresses up as a guild navigator or something. So check him out. He's really good. So yeah, and who else have we got? I think in terms of Dune content, I'm not too sure. I'll have a wee think, but there's other people out there. Let me see. Sorry, I've lost track a wee bit, but thank you very much, Travis. But if you're looking for, I'm not joking. His Dune stuff's he's really good quality. Check him out if you don't mind. But I've been watching his Dune videos, and I've been watching a few of his science fiction ones. And I tend to have to come into the office with the right glasses to deal with subtitles these days. Then we have diametrically opposed positions. As a parent, you can't understand how much you want to see your genetics continued. I can't understand that. Hmm. The burrito bingo board. Hmm. Cosmo off on the bingo board. I mean, yeah, we can all have different opinions on things, you know. Goodness, parenting is there must be a billion and one ways of going about it. Mom's Binos Ether, as both mom and granny, I have absolutely no further control over my DNA. Feels as if it's irrelevant. The species will continue. I know you're unpopular in 2020. It doesn't bother me. I'm a pro-abortion centrist. If stupid people want to thin the gene pool part and you're pro-abortion centrist. Okay, yeah. Abortion's a big thing here. Actually, abortion protesters actually sit outside my wife's work. Not that my wife has that. My wife's work has got nothing to do with abortion. But they're usually just over here. They're just crazy. Sorry, but they are just crazy Christians who've got nothing better to do. You actually wonder why aren't you at work or something? Have you got nothing better to do? We're having a laugh. Actually, I was saying to my wife that I would, for a giggle, go up to her work dressed as a kind of giant baby with a with a big club, kind of band, and just go up. Just to have a giggle, get some photos taken, just to give her a smile at work. I thought that was funny. mm. I think simply put, in regards to that, women should be in control of their own bodies. It's end of, and whatever discussion about how women wish to go about with their own bodies should be held between them and their medical practitioner, and that's it. It's nobody else's business at all, as far as I'm concerned. That's the point of adding people to the 7 by. I much prefer if we cared to keep the ones alive and well that are already there. We have a big, massive population imbalance in Northern Ireland, guys. I don't know about yourselves, but we took it heavy in the war, and we took it heavy in the First War as well. So in the two world wars, Northern Irish tend to be at the front of the capap. So we lost entire generations. So that boomer and war baby kind of thing really means a lot here. Our population hadn't recovered at all really from the famine prior to that, and so immigration was massive here. So and hmm, it's interesting in terms of population dynamics. We have a massively elderly generation. Then you've got the main working generations, kind of our generation. And we're about to have all as the boomers, as you say, hit the care homes and leave us to do all the work. But apart from that, we've our population's massively tilted to working as young people. So I think it's quite bad here. It's one of the reasons why our care homes and our social healthcare system is actually really struggling. Is it's because of a massive population imbalance and the demographics completely tilted. A lot of people don't think about this, but here it's completely the result of World War One and World War Two. You'd be hard pressed to go into any town in Northern Ireland, and not find a war cenotaph with a list of names from World War One, a list of names from World War Two, and they're often quite a lot of names. I mean, I don't think there'll be a single town that you could go to. So we lost entire generations. If you think about the Somme, the Battle of the Somme, and so it is a very interesting thing. Whereas in other parts of the world, we have massive overpopulation. There are villages in China with just nothing but men. And so it is. It's interesting that we could move people around the world if we didn't have such a stupid attitude towards borders. And the best thing you can do is mix your genes with something, mix it up. I hope that's what he's called, Travis Rocket Man. I think if you give me a wee quick second, I'll just double check for you, rather than give you the wrong. I'm not sure if he's on this. Rocket Man, yeah. Rocket Man, one word. Travis Rocket Cap, then a capital R, Rocket, capital M-A-N, that's him, but Rocket Man. Really good wee channel. I haven't been watching for too long, but I really enjoy it. And he's got, it's the same sort of thing as he's got the same thing as Quint. He's got really, really good enthusiasm, but really knows his stuff. And he talks real fast, but I don't know if that's the Russian or ultra enthusiasm, but he's very good to watch, and his videos are really well produced. So I give him a thumbs up, definitely. Let me just catch up, folks. I don't see the point of it. Oh, okay, no, Doc, sometimes it isn't that you miss a comment, it's that you mention something, then move on, and the random statement we make refers to that, but you get it to a few minutes later. It's all good. Yeah, I know, Brad. It is and it's just the way. Actually, my head's a bit tangential, and I'm kind of trying to. I actually try to keep some of the threads, but if you guys don't mind too much, and if I ever do miss something blatantly, just fire it down there again. I'll get there. But I always like. I don't like the wee text to keep. Oh, it's scrolling out. It feels like it's getting away from me, if you see what I mean. Samuel Theriault, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Samuel. Hi, Doc Sloan. I'm at an advanced showing of Villeneuve's Dune in the US right now, but the movie doesn't start for another 40 minutes. The stream was a nice surprise for while I wait. Oh, you lucky sod, Samuel. Well, excellent. Thanks very much for joining us. I hope you really enjoy the film. Advanced showings. How are you get? Because somebody else was saying they got to see Dune in the US the other day. But I suppose it's good. I hope you really enjoy the film, Samuel. Let us know what you think afterwards if you can. We'll be back on tomorrow night. But thanks very much for saying hi, and I hope glad you're enjoying the thing. Travis says Rocket Man. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, need to brush up on my Ruski for sure. Not. I don't speak a word of Russian, so the captions will get you the subtitles on YouTube. It's one of the things I love about YouTube, that it opens up, as much as I suppose that's part of a lot of things, But yeah, he's really good. I quite enjoy his channel. I was just trying to think of other Dune content. There's quite a few, but I'm really bad at remembering names. So I'll have to scribble some down. Enjoy. Put your phone away and Carolyn says to Samuel, enjoy, put your phone away and meditate for half an hour. You're not ready for it. The anticipation must be mighty. Samuel, spoiled. Lucky you. Come tomorrow and tell us about it. Absolutely. And have fun and enjoy the film, Samuel. Hope it's everything you're expecting. We need to quintuple the population to colonize the solar system. Fine, but do that when we're ready. Just colonize the solar system. I think I think China's going for a 3-child policy at the minute, which is not a great idea. But the Earth is overpopulated, yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I think it can sustain its population the way it is now. It's how we're using its resources. But I don't think our population increasing is very good at the minute. I love the cartoon eyes, Karen. That's very Scooby Doo. They just don't want certain kinds of people going hard on the propaganda to convince you to stop breeding. Have you ever traveled the world? Do you understand how much of it is empty? Oh yeah, very much so. 4%, as I said, I think, of the land mass of the Earth is habitable by man. And Carl Sagan would point out, I think, that this planet really should be called ocean, not Earth. The bigger problem is that we're not bothering to implement a system that conserves resources and uses them efficiently. Until we even start that, adding people is definitely one of the worst things to do for the environment in my book. Ether says, sorry, I like you, but on this subject, I simply have a longer view than many. No worries, we're all entitled to our own opinions, Ether. It's all good. No way, you're reptilian overlords. The Vril. Yes, indeed. I think that's really interesting, that one. It can sustain more people, just not the way we're handling it. Yeah. But I don't know. Colonization of the solar system, maybe, but I don't think anything else would be quite safe in terms of long term. There's some planets that are on the list, aren't there? I suppose that are in the Goldilocks zone. I think closest ones are about 20 light years, isn't it? Current tech take you about 60 years to get there, probably. So no, mankind's not ready for the stars yet, Ether. Not yet by a long shot, I'd say. Baby steps, but we're in one existential crisis of many, I think, at the minute. Get green terrorists out of the way of nuclear. I'll put it this way, folks. If you want to know, I'm trying to remember to tell you what. I'm going to look this up for you. But if you want to know what's the problem with the article about Frank Herbert's Dune being read by Islamist Americans, and that this Orson Scott Card article. And what's it called again? Bear with me, I'll give you the title of it. Let me see, where would I put it? Science fiction, probably. Airport Chocolate, Rebooks, and Dune, Uncle Orson Reviews. This thing. The whole question about 9/11, what if Osama bin Laden had read Dune? This kind of attitude towards young Americans who are Islamic, who are Muslims, blah blah blah, the paranoia, etc., etc., etc. It's to do with Herbert's work, actually, but it's not to do with, I think, Dune. Herbert discusses. I kind of already knew the answer to it. Put it this way, and I don't know if you know how. I'm not sure if I can explain how I knew the answer. That Osama bin Laden did not have a copy of Dune. That how Islamic American terrorists were not using this, was simply based on the attack at 9/11. And I thought that was it. And Frank Herbert has his own warnings about this, and I think that's it. There's a link of connections there, and I must look into it for you, because I think it's actually quite interesting. Sustenance. I'd say a big problems there. I mean, I've noticed a massive change in air pressure. I'm almost like a human barometer. Where I'm at anyway, which is not good. Either steady down now, we're all out our own view. I developed mine on my own. In Australia, we're covering the viable land with urban sprawl, then degrading the land that is on the fringe. Get green terrace out of the way of nuclear. Nuclear power is extremely dangerous if you've got, if it goes wrong. It's as simple as that. The rest is it's very clean as well, but it's very dirty. I think there's some talk about one of our political parties, whenever our parliament was down, our Stormont executive, there is talk about, we heard it is that the nuclear waste from England is maybe getting dumped in Northern Ireland. Yay, again, instead of just dumping it in the sea. I don't know. It's funny what your politicians will negotiate. I think the point is, I suppose, Ether, is that we're, regardless of where we're at, we're all in different places, and it's a bit maybe like what Frank Herbert was talking about, but your environment dictates your moral law, if you see what I mean. People here because of majorly a lot to do with the climate, I would say, and there are people who live in kind of places like Iceland, hot climates. We're all different, and we have different our different local environmental needs, I think, are quite obvious to us. And I think whenever we look at the environmental change, it has to be, unless you're a jet setter and you're setting around base all over the world all the time, you're not going to see this kind of thing. It's what we notice in our own local environments, and we have to kind of understand that that's what's happening here, and it might not be happening what's there for you. It might be something different, and the environmental problems being created are massively variable. And each country and how each part of the world and how it deals with them is going to be actually a localized thing, I think. But there's a kind of collective response in terms of what's happening. That's a collective thing. But I think each country's responses, there'll be global stuff that we all have to do together. But but there'll be every country's got its problems. Our response in Northern Ireland to whatever environmental nonsense is coming our way, and we have a fair sense of it, and is very different than, say, somebody in Russia's or somebody in America's or somebody in Africa's. We're a wee kind of small island out on the we're in a very odd point for a particular set of weather, and so our problems will be very different to everybody else's, I think. But and I've traveled about a bit, and I'm one of these people that observes, I suppose. Let's have a wee look. Oh, I'm going to agree on promoting nuclear energy, though. Yeah, it's great until someone cracks your reactor. That's all. Benefit and hazard, isn't it? But yeah, Brad Rose says that the majority of primary production is by corporations for export profit, so we're degrading our land for the profit of the few rather than family farms as it once was. Yeah, everything's got a price, and that's why they'll not stop cutting the trees down. Ka-ching, that's it. Money's your problem, I think. Ether, I was raised in the USA in the middle of Greenpeace, Earth Day, etc. Then I met Dune. Took it on myself to learn as much about ecology as I could. If we created upgradable technology instead of disposable tech and consumer goods, we would be well on our way to a sustainable world. Nuclear in 2021 is very different than even in 1990. Yeah. Well, we kind of did have a world where we created well, stuff that lasted, I suppose. Which is it's the disposable generation. Upgradable, yeah, future compliant. I had computers that were running for 20 years there, and I had just give up on them because of all the, trying to get them to work with modern tech. It's just ridiculous. And I'm a very good jury rigger. The fact that I've got 64-bit computers that are 20 odd years old is apparently, I was told that was quite an achievement. But yeah, most of my videos were made on a very, very old computer before it went on me. So I think a lot of our problems, by the way, guys, Ether and Karen, etc., are often unforeseen. If you see what I mean. If you look at the CFCs, refrigeration. What a great thing refrigeration was, wasn't it? Who's going to put an argument against that? In terms of saving food and keeping it brilliant, but it nearly took us out, didn't it? It's often, it's the unforeseen consequences of what we do. And almost everything we do is mass produced. So everything's, the amount of crap we're putting into our air is ridiculous. Excuse me. But yeah, the philosophy behind business and technology is all wrong. Economics is all geared towards money, the production of money, and to give people money. And it is, I'll not be taking any of it with me when I die. So I don't really. It's what a colossal waste of time. Ridiculous. So yeah, there's also. I'll tell you what. You're talking about that kind of stuff. By the way, I'll tell you what. Ether, I actually have a very interesting collection on books on nuclear war and nuclear weapons, and they are scientific. I've got all sorts. You wouldn't believe the stuff I have on nuclear weapons. There's a good one for you. Bertrand Russell's Common Sense and Nuclear Warfare, and trust all of this. I've got stuff by Carl Sagan on nuclear war. I'm well versed in it, and I have British NBC military manuals and stuff from the 80s. I used to read all sorts of stuff. I was very young. So yeah, nuclear industry, all machines degrade. I think is my problem with that. Everything degrades and all machines fail eventually. It's the big problem with the nuclear thing. But yeah, upgradable tech, future design, future proofed, if you like. But I think also the problem is either we're going too quick, and just because we can do something doesn't mean we should. And it could even be the idea of maybe delaying certain inventions. But I also think, what is it? Somebody says it's a race against time, isn't it? There's an Arthur C. Clarke quote about humanity. Sort of, it's a balance between destruction and a race against time with technology. I can't remember it exactly, but nuclear industry had lots of problems, but from a purely technical standpoint, being incredibly useful if used well. Of course, modern nuclear power plants are a completely different story than the ones being maintained from decades ago. Bojack Harkness has got to go. Love the content. Thank you, Bojack. Thanks for joining us. Travis says, agree, Ether, we ain't in 3 Mile Island territory these days. The tech has come a long way since. Ether Prime, that's why I'm a centrist. I think the left and the right take idiotic positions for political posturing. Do other people know about the light bulb conspiracy? We can do things better, but the companies won't make their profit. Yes, Brad, we could do much better. Yeah. By the way, I suppose the point I was trying to point you to that I wasn't wanting to say really is that Frank Herbert himself has a massive concern about nuclear power plants in America. And it's exactly his concern was what happened with 9/11 would happen with them. And he thought you should have I'll have to look this up and figure out where it is. But he reckoned, and that's your Osama bin Laden Dune connection to Frank. Frank feared that people would attack nuclear power plants. and that's your problem, isn't it? So if France is covered in them, America's covered in them, and to crack a power plant, you don't need well, use the right explosives, that kind of thing. It's they're extremely dangerous and vulnerable to terrorist attack these days, or even a military attack. A modern, if you can think of a bit of modern war going on in a country full of nuclear power plants, that would be pretty odd. The odd random shell hitting something, or I think that they contain a great deal of risk. Built-in obsolescence, creating something badly to ensure repurchase. It's kind of but like the Blade Runner theme, isn't it, Babs? 4-year lifespan in the film, isn't it? Each new tech, while being potentially highly beneficial, also potentially adds another possible test for the maturity of humanity. More ways to cause harm in more easily accessible ways. Absolutely, I think, and almost anything is a weapon. That's the way I would always like to put it, Carol. If you look at the development of technology in the ancient world, it's quite interesting. But if you look at the watermill, for example, when it turns up, where it turns up, and then within X amount of time, run along to the Doomsday Book and have a look at how many watermills are there. That kind of thing. We have the Antikythera mechanism. We have a analog computer that's in use around 200 BC, and we know that there was more than one, at least two, as far as I know, on ships. That navigational technology was lost. That would have been an incredibly useful thing to the ancient world. But in fact, if you can imagine that if that computer stayed in existence, we might be 2,000 years ahead of where we are. The other thing is that we often abandon technologies once we've got the new one. Well, hey, out goes the old one. And we tend to not look at the old ones too much. And I suppose this is kind of where we're now looking at wind power, water power, and the old natural technologies are smart, I think. In the US, that's interesting. Because if you can't get on the water, particularly a lot of people in Ireland aren't on the water grid, I suppose. I think it's quite hard to lay pipes through some of the mountains in Donegal and stuff. But my understanding is a lot of people just have their own wells. So in the USA, catching rainwater is banned in many places. Could you explain why, Ether? Is it because of the quality of the rainwater or something? That's madness. I'm just assuming catching rainwater means having a well or something like that. If you have any questions for me tonight, folks, sorry, I know we've just been chatting away there, but we were having a wee chat about some of that stuff, and we see computer models and so on being used to predict our sense of doom right from the get-go in the 60s and 70s. Ether says, I live near Cutie, which requires approved barrels in Ohio because you don't have any rights to catch and use the rainwater. That's the one, but now we have obsolescence by fashion. We must have the latest phone. Pathetic. You may own the land, but nothing above or below it. That's pretty wild. That's it's absurd. They've done that sort of thing to people here, but I think they've come and put solar panels on some roofs and stuff, and some sort of property ownership of the air, which is amazing, isn't it? See, I think the more further on the government goes, the more and more it requires to tax more and more things just to sustain itself. America is way ahead of that whole capitalism mindset. I see. Ka-ching. You even put a shed behind your house on your own property. Yeah, tax everything. Ultimately, I think the political class has become, whatever you want to call your politicians in your own society, the political class is kind of the bottom feeder, isn't it now? It's the parasite. And I'll put it this way. We've had a couple of years in Northern Ireland where our government just went off and talked to whoever they wanted, didn't sit in power at all. Look this up, it's true. Basically completely crapped all over everyone. Protestant, Catholic, you name it. Wrecked so basically we had an oligarchic coup. Though they just say, oh, we're not, and here's what happened. Northern Ireland got on with it. The civil service, everybody knuckled down and ran the country. And the actual true horror for the politicians and their actions resulted in the death of Lyra McKee, that wee girl that was murdered. Um, the true result for our politicians is this: we all know now that we can actually run our country without them. I don't know if any of you have had that wonderful insight, but it takes me that I'd like to see this country head towards an isonomic form of democracy, which is simply, stop handing your right, stop handing your power away, your vote. Don't give it to someone. Use it yourself. Form your isonomic governments, pure democracy. As long as you include everybody in your society equally and apply one set of laws to all people in your society equally, you are your government, once a day, or not once a day, so but every now and then you'll come and do your bit. And it is pure democracy. I think it's a good way forward here anyway, because the problem in Northern Ireland is, simply put, all the people that are in power are monsters, and they shouldn't have it. And whatever happens with Northern Ireland, none of them deserve it. And there's too many dead people here for any of them to have it. I think for any of them to get what they want. So my personal opinion is none of them should get what they want. And I think the way to do that is to remove all the political parties, give them no power at all, and make them illegal. And simply put, it is illegal for you to get rid of your vote. It is illegal for you to give away your vote. You create a society where you encourage everyone to actively take part in your government and have equal responsibility for it. And that's kind of what the ancient Greeks had, but they didn't include foreigners, women, etc. So, not saying it was perfect, but there's your twist of your, let's alter the moral law with a bit more ethical. But there you go. Well, that's just my opinion, but that fits here and not anywhere else. And the reason why it would fit here, folks, is because this is a small country and it has a small population and it's an island, if you see what I mean. I love the Philippines because it's kind of more like living in the 1950s USA with mobile phones and 500 megabits internet. I disagree with democracy 100%. Because the general public is too easily misinformed or corralled into voting against their own good with feel-good naming on massive 100,000 plus page laws. Yeah, well, that's the whole point of that. That's we get rid of that. We found new homes for the rich. Gravestones, yeah. No, in ancient Greece, basically the way it worked in Athens, is that democracy. The word "deme" has lots of different meanings. And you can take it as people if you want, but it also referred to a division of 10. So Athens was kind of divided evenly up in 10, and you had a government formed each day with the same number of people chosen from each of those divisions. And you got your pebbles, black and white, to vote yes or no. And people can speak on any topic. And no harm to any of us, but Athenian democracy didn't last too long. But the Athenian culture is incredible, and that all of our ideas and a lot of the nonsense that we're sold as a democracy, it's based on theirs. And it has the potential, I suppose. But the representative democracy is just give your vote to anybody, really. Certainly in America, the person that gets elected president, I think, is the person that's got the most money. It's the incredible money machine to get somebody elected as a president. Such a wasteful thing for your society to do. Hope you don't maybe talking about American democracy. I had a lot of good hopes for American democracy, but I think it's kind of not looking good at all. I think democracy is two wolves and one sheep voting for what's there. Without proper, let me just back up. I missed a couple of things there. Without proper, completely new concept of education, democracy is the worst idea I've ever heard of. Laughing out loud. Different types of government. Rule of the people, power of the people. I think it's a lot better than power of the few, power of the one, power of a couple. Power of a small group. There's maybe the word power is the problem there. Kratos is the great personification of power and strength, isn't it? Force, that's it. Power and force. Democracy is two wolves and one sheep voting on what's for dinner. I disagree. Have a look at Athenian democracy, Ether. Good books, the world of Athens. Check it out. But yeah. Nothing's perfect, is it though? And I suppose they were going at it for the run first time. But it's the Greek and why they formed a democracy. And if you look at their laws and stuff, I think no, Athens is still the model, if you like, the model ideal. And it has a philosophy. Can you imagine going to put it this way, guys? Can you imagine somebody going, right? It's your turn today. Here's your pebble. Off you go. And you go and you do your bit, and you have to go. Okay, everybody, today, you guys are the government. Okay, everybody's counting on you. Listen carefully to the arguments that you're told, and vote best accordingly to how you think it would help you and everybody else. And you get to listen to it. So you have the quality speakers that I think it'd be a very interesting idea, and you're compensated. So imagine that 51% of the people decide for the other 49% of the homosexuality should be punishable by death. Democracy is evil. Well, that's a representative democracy, and I'm there at the minute. Ether. But if it was isonomic, then I'd actually maybe have some representation. I'll give you an example. When our government doesn't sit, right, we have also government and parliament in the United Kingdom. Now, we have about roughly 20 MPs. Half of them are unionist, right? All of one party, and they represent 40% of the population. The other half of them are nationalists, Sinn Féin, etc., and they represent about 40% of the population. However, they will not take seats in Parliament by choice, and it's part of their ancient thinking. So they don't sit in Parliament. So the 40% that the unionists represent in the English Parliament now actually represent 100% of the people. And though they actually don't represent 60% of the population group, though there's no representation for the 20% of people in Northern Ireland that aren't Catholic or Protestant that nobody ever talks about and that we don't exist. So it's one of those things. So we end up, it's called the tyranny of the minority, I believe is what you're talking about. And yeah, in terms of how democracy's been completely subverted. The local government just shuts down, goes and does whatever deals it wants with the European government, the English government, the Irish government. It's just not for us. Nobody's working for the people here at all. If you look at Ian Paisley Jr., he's just going around taking money, holidays all over the place. Our MP, they actually tried to get him recalled. He became the first MP in British history to get recalled. Attempt to have his own constituency recall him, and he that one man represents about 72,000 people. But a whole bunch of them think his daddy's. There's a religious nutter thing there. There's a founder of the church, Ian Paisley Senior. And a complete sort of monster. So he was. So within that, then, if you see what I mean, regardless of whatever the United Kingdom Parliament ever does, Scotland's never going to have a majority. Wales is never going to have a majority. Northern Ireland's never going to have. It's an English Parliament, and it's rigged that way, and it always will be an English Parliament. And particularly the Conservatives attach themselves to the Unionists, so the Conservative and Unionist Party. So absolutely understand it. That I tell people that I don't live in a democracy. We have a monarchy. And a hierarchical feudal, there's still lords and ladies and stuff. We were talking about Patrick Stewart the other day. Sir Patrick Stewart is a knight of the British Empire, and it's one of those things that if he says, "You call me sir," he'd get told where to go by a lot of people, I think. So no, I do understand what you're saying, Ether, but the thing that I'm talking about isn't what we have, and the democracies that we have are sold to us as what the Athenians have, but they're not the same thing. So sorry for the rant, guys. Ether, education, involvement, or friends of good citizenry. Civics have been taught in the US, hasn't been taught in the US for 40 plus years. Look at the shithole it's becoming. I think career politicians should be banned. I agree. I don't think if you don't let your president sit for 10 years, why should you let any other politician sit for the same time? And I strongly think that each generation creates a gap between the one before, that you can't have 80-year-old people telling 20-year-olds what they think is right and wrong. In this case, your current cadre of politicians, not just people, products of different decades, they're products of a different century. And actually, if you think about it, they're also the product of a different millennium. And our politicians here are firmly rooted in the 17th, and I'm not joking, I mean this literally, the 17th century. So yeah, you're when I said I'm classically educated and you know my kind of all the things, and I also describe myself as Northern Ireland's most unemployable man. You see, if I went for a job as a teacher, you know, Catholic teachers and Protestant teachers can get jobs before over atheists or sorry, anyone who's not a Catholic or Protestant. You understand? It's not just atheists. If you were Jewish and you applied for a job at a Catholic school, they'll take the Catholic teacher first, and they'll probably take the Protestant second. Then, if you see what I mean, and that's legal here, by the way. It has been legal here for a long time, which is one of the reasons why I'm not a teacher, actually, which I was told was my first best destiny. So there we go. But it's interesting. There we go. So I don't know. I know we've gone a wee bit into politics and stuff here, but it's a fundamental attached to this. The idea of the hero as well, the ecological hero rising on a bandwagon. There's a warning about that kind of person, and we're going to see it with Pardo and Leah at Keynes. What was I thinking there for a wee second? But the ecological thing, ecology is an emerging science, I suppose. And it has to be a combination of so many different things. Ether says, as I said, the amount of democracy should be equal to the average education level of the citizenry. Yeah, and educate the hell out of your citizens then. Smart citizens are good citizens. Smart citizens are good, smart people. You know, it doesn't have to be a citizen. If you see what I mean. But I don't know. I think the technology nowadays allows for a pure form of democracy. If your population's small enough, I think it would be a very unwieldy thing somewhere like America. At this point in time, it would blow up in our faces so fast we wouldn't even know what happened for several decades. About pure politics. Yeah, I don't think any politician should be allowed to work for more than 10 years. I think they should, take that idea, then go teach politics. Go once you've done your 10, if you want to stay in the job, go teach other people about it and how to experience it. But in fact, a lot of our politicians, particularly prime ministers, once you're done in that career, then your job is actually to go and sell your knowledge to companies and foreign governments about how best our democratic system works and how best to milk the public purse. And I think really that's fundamentally what business is about these days, and what politicians are about is that politics works for business. For politics rather than working for the people. And so they all go, it's about the economy, it's about employment. And so it really is about you making money for someone. And that's it. And I don't know, a lot of you, maybe your jobs, I'm in education, so I teach people and I see worth in what I do. But there's a lot of people who have jobs out, and I've had so many of them myself, that there's absolutely no worth or no point to them whatsoever. And to be honest with you, we all have to start engaging in husbandry. If each house had its own small, doesn't take much to do all your electricity. A small solar panel about yay big will do all your hot water for a day. If you have a small windmill, there are ways we could all be certainly self-sufficient to a degree, and get people planting their own herbs and few vegetables. Just try to supplement things with I don't know, but yeah, that. Northern Ireland's a very rural, very beautiful country, and I can see the effects here, and I have been seeing them for some time. Ecology matters when environment is part of evolution. Yeah, I don't think they're separate. I don't think you can separate them, quite frankly, perhaps, to be honest with you. I think evolution is a result of the environment, and from then on, fundamentally linked. Absolutely. Point where your environment becomes hostile, you'll die. And we're seeing so many species getting blipped at the minute. I thought one of the worst things that I saw was about a big, I don't know what the group would be. It was what's the collective noun for elephants? I wonder, is it a school or a pod or something like that? I don't know. I wonder what is the collective noun for elephants. That's an interesting one. Should know this. Collective Elephant. Let's have a look. A memory. That's a good one. Oh dear, oh dear. I forgot what it was. Yeah, it's a memory of elephants. There's a good one, isn't it? I can't remember what you call a group of elephants. It's a memory thing, isn't it? A memory of elephants. Yeah, we saw a large group of a memory of elephants, and they're all dead around a water, like a water pool, and it was quite sad. Really, really horrible thing. This was last year, or maybe even this year. And it was like a cyanobloom algae that formed in their water over the heat, and they all drank it and they just died of poisoning. And really awful, you know. So absolutely agree. Ecology matters when environment is part of evolution. It's really fundamental. It's life. Mm. The law of your household, as I like to think of it. You know, in America, there's a revolving door in the political and global corporate spheres. Karen says a job. What's that again? Live by your wits, I suppose. That's what it's all about nowadays. I want to know what all this stuff is that Chris isn't saying. Very good. His message has been retracted. Might have been interesting. The left, the right, no difference to the common man, just what kind of propaganda you want to hear. One thing Frank Herbert kind of clued me in on is that the greater technology develops, the slower mankind's evolution develops. I think politicians would make good fertilizer. Plus one, Brad. I don't think there's any such thing as the common man anymore. If you want the common person, I think there have been large tools of keeping people in ignorance and controlling people. The inability to read and write and the use of ritual within religion. You know, you keep people in their place by telling them that they'll have an absolutely happy, clappy, super good heaven place to go to afterwards, and it's good to suffer, and you know all this stuff. It's absurd, you know. But no, the written word I think has been used to control people more. I argue that the most destructive piece of technology ever created is the written word, and I would also argue that it's the most beneficial piece of technology ever constructed is the written word. But yeah, the ability to educate yourself, I suppose, to be informed. That we often know. Here's the real problem for a lot of politicians: we're often better informed than they are, and they are not on the same moral basis as us. And that's something that I've really discovered quite badly over the last year or two. You know, we've had our politicians in the United Kingdom government talking about the use of terror as a weapon. That's they've taken away. They took a wee girl who was radicalized, and they took her citizenship away, and when she was heavily pregnant, and I think they're all going, "Oh, you're a Christian country, are you?" And the one thing that popped into my head is, where's your mercy? Where's your compassion? So the simple fact is that the politician is a pretense creature. It's a bottom feeder, and they need for all of us to keep paying for all of them. And they often are poorly qualified to do their job. With often cult of personality rising up on local agendas or whatever. As I said, do you think that the people that you put in power should be in charge of war machines and stuff like that? Because they could be anybody, and it's one of those things. It's getting heavy. It's just hitting about 12. Babs is saying good night. Babs, all the very best, Babs. I think I'm off the fine feed. See you all tomorrow. Take care, Babs. All the best. Grimdark, what were your experiences during the Troubles in Northern Ireland? Doc? Can't really talk too much about them. Grimdark, like I can, I suppose, but I'll be putting things at risk because I will give you my one opinion is that the Troubles aren't over, and the Troubles aren't a what or where or where. The Troubles are a who. Grimdark, who are the Troubles? So everyone's still here. The way it's reported at the minute is they don't like to admit there's a whole it hasn't gone away at all, and so there are bomb alerts here quite a bit. There's shootings, there's kneecappings, etc., etc., and the press doesn't really put it out because particularly the mainland Britain doesn't like to think of that there's a whole bunch of terrorists on their back door, but I would say that my experiences are unique, grimdark. Um, I can tell you how I put it this way: the Troubles. I got Some of the things I've seen are just a bit bizarre, I think. But as a child, I ended up in a place that kids shouldn't be in, and I was there quite a lot, if you see what I mean. And I have very good ears, and I listen. And yeah, if I put it this way, Grimdark, if I told you some of the stuff, it's not known to a lot of people. I'd have a lot of people shitting themselves right now, including policemen, government, all sorts. They just cack themselves. So I can't really. The trouble's quite a long period of time. But it's been my entire life. So I've never known anything different, to be honest with you. But there's Catholics. You know all the pairings, Catholics, Protestants, all of that. Not any of them. So we stand apart, complete, and we always have done. So. But that's the thing. So my family's itself split. It's not split up, sorry, but it's a split of the extended family into both communities, and I really have very little contact. And that's been always a survival. So no, it's about survival, Grimdark. It's been one of those things, and I've grown up knowing that everyone around me is the enemy. That's it. So if you understand that, and I mean everyone. So so my experiences are not that horrific, but I've seen my fair share. It's more stuff that I know about, really, and I've done a few things which I shouldn't have done, again, as a young person and as a kid, and I've been used in some ways, I suppose. But some of it I was kind of oblivious to, and it was all normal to me. And I'll be honest with you, Ether, it was only whenever I started going over to England and stuff like that, and talking to some people about this kind of stuff, and watching their reaction, and they're you know they don't believe me, and and yeah, so I have a very good sense of the things that I can't really. I don't. It's not that I can't. I probably will, actually. To be honest, at some point, I'm thinking about doing some videos on Northern Ireland, and they wouldn't be nice, but it is our 100th anniversary. I do have certain kind of chops, if you see what I mean, and yeah. So it's. Oh, you've seen enough. I moved schools an awful lot. I had to move house an awful lot. Grimdark, I suppose, if you want to get a sense of it, which means having no roots, having no friends, always moving, not trusting anyone, not knowing that you can't trust your friends. And if you do engage in trust, you'll probably have it. Oh, it's time to move house again. That kind of thing. So constantly on the move, and it's something I found very hard to shake. But I trained to look for bombs under my car, my dad's car, from about the age of 8. So I'm not allowed, because kids would run out and get in the car, boom, if you understand. So searching for bombs, I get trained how to do that about the age of 8 or 9. That's fun. So how many kids get taught how to do that? Help me out get a job later on at Heathrow. Once upon a time. But yeah, so there's a lot to say, really, Grimdark, but the troubles aren't nice. But I've had my interactions with both communities over the years, and they've never been good. And because of things like the tell, the real problem with the Catholics and Protestants here, the Unionists, the Nationalists, the Loyalists, the Republicans, all of them, is that if they don't think you're what they are, they think you're the opposite. And so they're often blind to any cultural difference or religious difference except their own, except one of the two sides, if you see what I mean. And they're both the same. That's the interesting thing, is they're just two sides of the same evil coin, if you like. There we go. But interesting. My dad had a very unique, specific job. Quite, well, not unique, but well, pretty much is, actually. So you'll never see pictures of my dad during the Troubles, but almost all the really bad pictures that you've ever seen, he was probably behind the person taking those photos, if you see what I mean. Yeah, so no, and we did have to. So most of the times when I moved schools, it was just time for a precautionary leave, but we did have genuine stuff, and people try to kill you, that kind of crap. And so the interesting thing is, if you could ask me who tried to kill you, I'd pick all of them, and it could have been any one of them, including the state. So we have zero trust. And I've been brought up to have no trust in the government, no trust in the police, no trust in the army, no trust in Christianity, and no trust in my society at all. So we're very much and we're and we're one of the old families of Ireland, if you want to go with that nonsense. But yes, so there are bombs and bits and blood and all of that if you want, grimdark. But it's my own particular experiences are really unusual, and they're all to do with certain things, I suppose. But I could tell you how to do all sorts of things here. Um, Ether says we don't teach kids how to spot propaganda, how to think critically, how to ask good questions. It's all been replaced with ideological puritanism, be it left. SJW called like pseudo-religious right, Christian religious puritanism. Both are infecting education to its detriment. Sorry, I mean, it's just, I would happily talk about it, Grimdark. It's not a loaded question, by the way. Happily to answer anything. It's just, whoa, it's really going some quite very dark places, and I don't think this is the right place for that kind of thing. As much as I can joke, the worst thing is about it is that I'm known for having an extremely dark sense of humor, and if you knew a bit about me, you would know why. But I'm not bothered by dead bodies or limbs, and there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't bother me. But I think I sort of said to you, if you get the drift, that lone wolf and cub, if you understand that, I'm the baby in the cart, and I wasn't joking. That it's a good metaphor, I suppose, if you want to know what did you do during the troubles, because I was quite young at the start of it, and you're talking about things that affected me during my childhood and my adolescence, I suppose, but they're I was oblivious. It's kind of looking back, going, and as I said, the fact that people tell me now, you did what? You're what? And it is so alien, and especially living in the United Kingdom, you know, they're talking to you as if you've lived in a war zone or you're some kind of ninja death machine or something. It's quite strange. So a lot of people that I know from elsewhere kind of are kind of usually appalled at my childhood. But I had a really good childhood. You have to understand it didn't. It's normal, and it's because of the alien. The and it's something that a lot of people from Northern Ireland up until recently maybe wouldn't have left Northern Ireland. So been a very insular place. So always it's been interesting for me. Just and don't really chat about it too much. It's sometimes brought up, but talking to people from other cultures about it is a way of kind of explaining things about here. But people just look at me as if I'm insane, and so it's kind of that kind of thing. But you'd have to know a wee bit more about Northern Ireland and the situation, but particularly the 70s and 80s were definitely a bit weird. But by the time I hit the 90s, I didn't give a monkeys anymore. I'd had enough. Really, hence I'm a bit the reason why I am the way I am. I'm just had enough of the whole lot of them, and I behave like I've had enough of a lot of them, and I'm no shrinking violet about it. So it's one of those things where I'm absolutely repulsed by my own culture, and it's kind of an interesting thing. Some people talk about that white savior thing with Paul Atreides and June, that the fish out of water being immersed in someone else's culture, and I kind of do understand that because I've immersed myself in the classical culture of the world. That's kind of, I feel more at home in ancient Greece and Rome than I do in Northern Ireland. I'm not joking, And the sad thing is, I'll tell you this one, grimdark, because you asked it. I love this place. It's a beautiful, beautiful country. The thing is, you think a lot of people leave here because of the people. And people ask us, well, why don't you leave? Because you hate the people so much. But it's our place. It's not theirs. It belongs to me, as I like to point out. And it's my country. But it is a beautiful, beautiful place. I can't think of anywhere else that I want to live. And I don't know if that's my environment imprinting itself upon me from a very young age. But there's something about home, isn't there? It's just amazing. Oh, low trust societies are a hard pill to swallow. China's a low trust society. I've been in societies like that up close and personal. Love the Philippines because it's very high trust. Excuse me, society, even compared to America. Brad says, either we are slipping from high to low. There's a big divide city country, and that mostly due to the news cycle, in my opinion. Yeah, everywhere is different. And I suppose trust is a thing. It has to be generally earned, and once it's gone, it's pretty much kaput. I think. Excuse me, folks. I am still ill. I've made some really nice stir fry with lots of chilies in it today to try and Chinese garlic to try and get the my bunged upness away. So I'm feeling a wee bit better. I think that's maybe what you try all these decongestants, and actually what you really need is a good spicy food. I think, But there we go. It is an interesting thing, I suppose. Environment, religion, all of that's tied in here, and our yeah, we have a very particular environment here in Northern Ireland. Very, very wet. Wasn't they say we've got 40 shades of rain, or 40 shades of green in Ireland because you've got 40 types of rain, but it rains here all the time, and it's yeah. If you didn't like the rain, you wouldn't like Northern Ireland very much at all. I think one of the things that's interesting about our culture and our geography in Northern Ireland is it's always been different than the rest of Ireland. And if you look back to ancient myths and stuff like that, Ulster's always had its own particular thing. It's a geographical thing, and yeah, I think it's very interesting. Have you guys got any other questions? I know we're all over the place on trust in society, and I suppose it's what we talk about in Dune is that Frank's pointing out that your governments, your power people, the people in charge, and where are the little people in Dune? Doesn't matter. We don't even think about them. We'll never notice them, if you see what I mean. It's one of those things that we're focusing on the sort of the greats, I suppose. But the environmental thing within it, I think that I think what's the next episode we're looking at? I think is it they stop the moving sands. We're going to have a look at the article. I think that Frank Herbert did. Ecology is a dangerous topic. I don't think there's any dangerous topics, but I do understand this, that I think how we do look at things is very, very different around the world, and some of us are in a lot worse state. I think it is all relative in a way, and ultimately, I don't think at the minute, regardless of what the governments are doing, I think they've lost control of technology. I think they don't understand it. I think our politicians are always trying to catch up, and I think the public's generally a bit further ahead. I think most of us in the at least technically orientated world are more educated and informed, at least in retrieving information. The problem is there's so much misinformation in it. So I'll tell you something, Ether. The BBC do the weather here, right, on the news, up the BBC weather site on the news. Almost every time we go and check the BBC weather, it says it's going to be something here. And you look out the window, and it's not what it is. And do you understand my point? If you just, why bother looking up what the weather's like on the internet when all you have to do is walk outside? And but we've been discussing this, that the weather's reported here is seldom what it actually is. And how do you know? Well, go outside and look, if you see what I mean. So I don't know. All of the societies that we're talking about at the minute, I think the major thing is the industry and taxation and all of this stuff, and natural resources are going to come into it. And simply put, they're not going to stop chopping these natural resources down. And what we call the idea that natural capital is infinite. It's not. It's finite. And I suppose it's just the nature of the world as an organism. I think. Do you know about permaculture? I'm not sure I do. Let me just check the term. That's almost like permafrost. Permaculture. Okay. What's the etymology of perma? They're just not going to tell me. That's how it is, amongst others, an approach to land management that adopts arrangements observed in flourishing natural ecosystems. Includes a set of design principles derived using whole systems thinking. It uses these principles in fields as regenerative agricultural, rewilding, and community resilience. Permaculture originally came from the permanent agriculture, was later adjusted to mean permanent culture, incorporating social aspects as inspired by Masanobu Fukuoka's natural farming. Terms coined by Bill Mollison and David Holmgren in 1978, who formulated the concept in opposition to Western industrialized methods and in congruence with indigenous or traditional knowledge. Derived from whole systems thinking. Interesting. Oh, that's my dog's going a bit now. I'll have a wee look at that. It's kind of that, yeah. Oh, ladies, behave. Sorry about that, folks. So no, well, I get the gist of it. Yeah, it's kind of that bit similar to Buddhist economics, I think. That's in Schumacher's book. Yeah, still systemic thinking, isn't it? I wonder what Frank. I really do wonder what Frank would think about a lot of this at the minute. Chris has said, I've been trying to get a reply down, bro, but my fat fingers keep uploading my half-finished ramblings and I delete them. I'm knackered after a game of Race for the Galaxy. I'm a lightweight. It's all good, Chris. I'll tell you, I'm actually running out a wee bit of steam myself, guys, because my head is pounding here tonight. So I'll maybe say actually start winding things up, you know. But it is interesting. We all have different, and there's so many different ideas about ecology. Under permaculture, the ideas of a beautiful green lawn is seen as a wasteful use of land. Oh, I totally get that. It's about using the right thing. Yeah, there's some of those ideas in there in this week's video or tonight's video. I can't remember that. There's a few of the images in it. There's one of those things in Iceland is actually one of the one of these ecological test stations or something. And what was the other one? One of these small, the idea of these small communities, etc. So it's very similar to what Schumacher's saying. If that's permaculture, that make use of and small, is it maybe small communities and so on. That sounds quite a bit like Buddhist economics. So it's that kind of thing. As much as the book "Small is Beautiful" is a book on economics, it's really about ecology. By the way, folks. And we talked about the meaning of the two words, you know. I have to look up the weather for the day when I leave home for work. I won't be back for 14 hours. Oh, fair enough. Good to know ahead. It just seldom seems to be what it is actually here, you know. Well, listen, folks, I'm just going to call it a day there because I'm going to wrap it up, I think, and running out a wee bit of steam. My head's a wee bit sore, but I'm also bursting to go to the loo. So I'll tell you what, folks, thank you very much for joining us. And we'll have the next video tomorrow at 10 o'clock as usual, GMT +1. And I think it's not a particularly long one. Bear with me a wee second. I'll just check which one it is. But I think it is. Let me see. Yeah, they stopped the moving sound, so shouldn't be too long, and then we'll pop over to the chat. But tomorrow's the one about the little article that Frank was going to write that actually inspired all of this ecological stuff. You know. Ether says, growing herbs and fruit-bearing plants and vegetables on my land with some fat chickens to help with pest control. Oh, totally, yeah. Kind of that's where we're hoping to head, Ether, to be honest with you. But I'll have a chat with you about it tomorrow night, sir. So listen, everyone, thank you very much again for joining us. I hope you're all looking after yourselves wherever you are. I hope the weather's not too bad. It's been miserable here for ages. And I hope you are not as feeling quite as I am. But I've got a few more days to go, and I've got a quest to find cinema tickets now. So in case you're wondering, Grundog, just as you're leaving, I'll say goodnight. Not able to get tickets for June on the day at our local cinema. Have to go questing. So anyway, folks, listen, all the very best. Take care, and I'll see you again tomorrow night. Thanks very much for joining us. Bye-bye. Bye.